I looked up down the street, I'm like, there's this crazy squat, this guy with his techno music. I was like, I'm never leaving, man. This is exactly what I want.
This is Berlin.
Yeah.
Today's guest is Drew Portnoy, an American writer and comedian who has called Berlin home for over 2 decades.
A part of learning German, and this is, I think, why like expats don't learn German, is there's a cultural component. You have to like the culture. You have to like the people. If you just land here because you love Berlin, it's gonna be hard for you to love Germany right away.
We discuss how Berlin has changed since his arrival in the city. Also, we explore Drew's experiences raising a bilingual family in Germany.
Older people love to tell kids they're doing something wrong. My daughter speaks way too loud. They would annoy people in the subways, and they would be speaking English, so the people next to them would start complaining to each other in German about the kids. And then the kids would then switch and say, hey, wir verstehen euch now.
Do you think that living in Berlin can make your brain shrink? Andrew Portnoy.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm interesting now, so I'm inspired.
I'm very glad that you're here, that you accepted the invitation. So, first of all, I know that you're a writer. You're from Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
You moved to Germany, and now you write stuff in English and in German. You do comedy, and you're also a father of a bilingual family.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that true?
Those are all true, yeah.
What brought you to Berlin to start with?
Well, I was a journalist in Denver, and I just wanted to get, the short version is I wanted to get international experience as a journalist. It looks good on your resume. Okay. And I had been an exchange student in 1900. And so I thought, like, I speak German, so I'll go to Germany, I'll get my international experience. And I was originally in Frankfurt am Main. And at that time, it's hard to imagine now, nobody wanted to come to Berlin. So in our office, we had to cover stuff in Berlin, but nobody wanted to come here to cover it. And I came here once and fell in love. So they just sent me here every week. I came here like once a month to cover things.
When was that? In the 90s?
Late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then in 2000, I just moved here. I just said, I'm not going to stay in Frankfurt. I'm going to move to Berlin.
I read that you came here the first time in the 80s, right? The late 80s.
Yeah, the late 80s. That was when I was an exchange student because I'm old. And I came here once. We came here to see the Tour de France. I don't look like it now, but I used to be a competitive cyclist. And so the Tour de France was starting in West Berlin. That was still divided. And so we came to watch the Tour de France in West Berlin. What
was your impression there to see still the wall and to see or to perceive this difference between the West and the East Berlin?
Well, now I'm mad because back then we thought if we come over to East Berlin, we'll get kidnapped. You know, they'll send us, they'll send us to a gulag in Siberia or something.
It's the same that people say when they said that they will go to Mexico.
They
will get kidnapped.
Oh my God, I'll go to Tijuana. I'll come back with just one kidney. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So I really regret it now that I was here in West Berlin and I didn't brave coming over to East Germany. It would have been super cool. I mean, I took the train across, so we went through it, but you know, it was all Hollywood for me at that time. It just looked like
yeah. I always find interesting when I hear from people who are from Berlin and they lived in the GDR. And I always find it interesting because like you saw the history, you lived history. For me, sometimes I think that everything just happened very far away or already happened in the past. But I find for these people like, dude, you really lived it. I have a work colleague. He said, when the wall fell, they just drove to the West because they wanted to do two stuff. They wanted to go to a McDonald's and they wanted to try popcorn. So they went to somewhere in Hanover. Priorities. McDonald's and popcorns.
I had an East German girlfriend for a while, and she said when the wall came down, she went into a West German grocery store and she couldn't believe how many yogurts there were. She's like, when am I gonna have time to try all these yogurts? Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
I have the same impression with beers here in Berlin.
Yeah, it's same thing.
I have tried them all.
Like this Augustiner. It's like been 10 years that used to not exist in Berlin at all, and now it's like, and every year there's a new beer that we have to drink in Berlin.
Yeah, a new brewery popping up. But this one is quite good. I mean, this one is the one that we always had in the office. Yeah, the Augustina from
in the office where you guys were.
And a startup, so you know. Kika, Club Mate, and Augustina beer every day after 5. And when we have to do extra hours, pizza. Of course, they don't pay extra hours, so you only get pizza.
Domino's for €3. Yeah.
Yeah. then you came to Berlin, and then you mentioned this story with an experience there with a taxi that you were coming there with your back then girlfriend, I guess.
So yeah. Well, because in the office somebody said go to Oranienburger Straße.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, so we landed here. I had this American girlfriend, and so I was like, I guess we have to go to Oranienburger Straße. And back then, there were hookers all 100 meters on Oranienburger Straße. It's kind of hard to imagine now.
Yeah.
It was, and there was this big bombed out department store. It's called Tacheles. It was a squat. And so we pulled around the corner in this taxi, and there's all these, like, you're looking down the street and you see hookers, and they're like in high heels with short skirts, like they were crazy. And we pull around the corner, and then at the ground floor of the squat, there was this guy that welded these stainless steel dragons, like 6 foot tall dragons. They would spit fire, and he listened to techno super loud. So it's like, this guy's welding these dragons. There's these hookers. We come around the corner to the squat, and it had been bombed in World War II, so it was falling apart.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like something from, like Mad Max or something,
Yeah.
So we come around the corner, and then I hope this is the story.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering how many stories, similar stories you have like that. Well, in Berlin.
I meant the one where you went to the award show. So we came around the corner, and we got out of the thing, and we just happened to get out of the taxi in front of Tacheles, in front of the squat. Get out, and we just happened to get out in front of like 3 drug dealers just standing there, kind of like. And the thing is, like, now Berlin is full, and there's people, and like that's kind of downtown. Back then, it was nobody there. It was like these 3 drug dealers, the hookers, and us, and the guy welding his dragons over there. And so my girlfriend, her reference was America. She thought she had just landed in the Bronx in 1975.
Yeah.
She thought she was about to be a murder victim.
Yeah.
She freaked out. She totally lost it. So she was trying. She knocked on the window of the cab first. The cab started to drive away. Just ignored her. But the window to the passenger side was open, so she tried to jump in the window.
Wow.
Like, that's how scared she was. She was trying to jump in the window. Yeah.
Wow.
But I was like, I looked up down the street. I'm like, there's these hookers. There's this crazy squat. This guy with his techno music. I was like, I'm never leaving, man. This is exactly what I want.
This is Berlin.
Yeah.
Man. I remember that place. I mean, because he came in 2015. I came here in 2010, and that place was still there, Tacheles.
Yeah.
And it's super hard nowadays to imagine Oranienburg tour how it was before, because now it's completely different. That building now are some luxury apartments.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
Now it's like tourist area.
There's like a dam there now.
Maybe the hookers bought the apartments.
Yeah, maybe the hookers did.
Yeah, exactly. Now I remember back then. Yeah, people would say, "Yeah, go to Oranienburg tours if you want to see the hookers," because they were dressed like
Strippers.
Yeah, like strippers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And funny with the machine here is.
I remember that you told me about
to take your credit card, I don't know, or to give you an invoice or whatever. It was very, very funny that.
It got a little sketchier if you watched. There were actually like dudes that basically looked like neo-Nazis who were their pimps, like sitting in the cafes. If you watched it a little bit and you saw how the whole thing worked, then it was kind of like...
You analyze more the situation.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's always the way with the underbelly, like the underground stuff. At first it looks cool, and then you're like, actually, this is kind of...
Yeah. For example, I have seen sometimes at 3 a.m, there are like some cafes. You see some guys with big beers under phone at 3 a.m. in the morning, and you wonder, what are they doing? But it's like very obvious what they're doing. They're just controlling the situation, the sales, in the night.
Yeah.
And like,
they're a call center.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When did you say, okay, I want to live in Berlin?
I moved to Frankfurt in 98, and the first time I came here was shortly after that. Okay. And probably almost right away. I just Frankfurt had nothing to offer me really. Yeah. So then I just kind of right away said, I got to figure out how to get to Berlin. And, but it's you sort of brought it up with like the East Germans living through history, like somebody who I lived through the Cold War, and then you come here and this was the front line of the Cold War, and there's like all these things that were references in movies, documentaries, or everything, and you could just see, like you walk through them to get somewhere.
Yeah,
and so it's just like the history here is like palpable, and then you meet people who were part of this country that no longer exists that could tell you. I mean, that's the joke I tell now is kind of like. I moved to Germany, and they were like, "Oh, you like Germany? Did you know there's another one? Like here, you can geek out on 2 Germanys. You
can choose which one you like more."
Yeah. And so it was kind of fascinating, and Berlin is just the epicenter of all that.
Yeah. It's just quite impressive when you walk through. You see the line still when the wall was, and it's like Very, very interesting to see it, and very sad also what happened in East Side Gallery, that they tear down some parts of the wall to build luxury apartments.
Yeah.
And
true.
Yeah. So it's like it's a little by little missing that part of history, and you don't know if in 50 years you will still be able to feel it, because you don't see so much of the leftovers of it. Right?
It was funny because when the wall came down, then they wanted to tear down the whole wall. And they thought they got rid of it all. And there's like, I don't know, probably 2005 or 2006, there was this thing of like, oh, we tore down all the wall. There's no remnants left. Mm-hmm. But those of us who'd been going to illegal clubs in various parts of former East Berlin knew, there's half a kilometer over there. There's a couple hundred yards. Like we knew there were parts of the wall left. Now they're all museums. But it was weird for a while where they were saying there's no remnants of the wall left. And we were all like, nah, actually there is.
Yeah, now they sell it in the hip shops.
Well, I don't even, that's like cement they pour in studios like this probably, and then make it look like the wall.
Yeah. Or in the postcards also.
Yeah. There's no way those are. You probably could have built 5 walls with those postcards at this point.
But it's funny because when we came as tourists the first time, we really thought they were real, and it's like, no, they're real. No. Is it real? I don't know. I want one. I'll take it.
Yeah.
It has a certificate.
It has a certificate. It says Berlin Wall, and it's like even painted and
Does
everything.
Does it have a stamp on it? If it has a stamp on
it. Yeah. And what brought you into comedy? You were doing comedy already in the US, or you started here?
No, I loved comedy. Like the first wave of comedy was in the 80s because cable TV was kind of like the internet back then. They needed content. Like they had all this airtime and they needed stuff to fill it. So comedy was the easy thing. So I grew up, I'm a typical 80s kid. I don't really have parents. I had TV. So we just watched TV all the time, and I loved comedy. And I've always been a writer, but I always thought the hardest thing to write is comedy. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think I could do it. And then I moved to Germany, and I was watching German comedians.
You can do better.
Yeah.
You went hardcore.
Yeah. And I was turning 40, and I was like, you always want to try it. So go out, try it, and either just check it off your, take it off your list, or and right away I kind of had some success. So I just kept going.
But you started here in English, or you started right away doing it in German?
No, I started in German. There's this weird thing of when you do it in a foreign language, you can hide behind that language.
Okay.
And you'll see it, like there's German comedians who only do English, and there's English, like you can be like, if people don't laugh, you can go, oh well, that's because it's not my language.
Okay.
So it's like it gives you an automatic out. Mm-hmm, and then at some point you realize, well, actually I'm funnier in my native language. You have to build up I did 1 day German, and like a week later I did English, but I was hiding behind the language initially.
Mm-hmm. Because I find that very impressive. Yeah. and I heard one of your 150-minute show that is on YouTube.
Yeah.
How do you learn German? Because it has an accent, of course, but it's fluent.
Yeah, it was 2 things. Like I was 16 when I learned German because I was an exchange student in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And a part of learning German, and this is I think why like expats don't learn German, is there's a cultural component. You have to like the culture, you have to like the people, you have to kind of want to become them. Mm-hmm. And then your brain automatically like switches over to the language. Okay. And if you're not interfacing with the people, and I'm not blaming anybody, like Germans are hard to get to know. If you just land here because you love Berlin, it's gonna be hard for you to love Germany right away. Mm-hmm. But when I landed, like I said, I didn't have parents. I landed in Germany as an exchange. I was like, oh, I can reinvent myself. I can become the person I want to be. And learning German became part of that. Became part of my identity.
You were interested in Germany already when you were in the US, or when you wanted to have the international experience? You said anywhere in Europe or somewhere else?
No, actually, I thought about this as this podcast after you asked me, because part of the like I grew up in the Southwest in Denver. I should speak Spanish. Like I was surrounded. I should speak Spanish. There's no reason. And in 7th grade, they said you have to take a foreign language, and they basically checked the box for Spanish. Like because everybody takes Spanish. Mm-hmm. But then I thought I was punk rock, so I'm like, I'm not. Everybody takes Spanish. I'm not taking Spanish. Like an idiot. Like how easy would it have been
to order tacos and
I'm like, you absorb some of it just by like Yeah, but everything. I mean, it's like half the people are speaking Spanish. But so I took German as a punk rock move to be like,
okay,
I'm going to be different.
Yeah,
and then I regretted it. Of course, it was the worst class I had in middle school.
Yeah, but I was also sort of the same. If everyone wanted to take that, I would like to take the most strangest thing. So everyone wanted to learn French because in Mexico, so like if it's English, then what is the next language that sounds interesting? Yeah. French. I said, no, I I tried to learn French, but anyway, I said, I will learn German.
Oh, you did too?
Yeah, but I tried to learn it by myself. So the process was very slow.
And then you were like, der, die, was?
Yeah.
Like, what?
What have I done?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not sure how I landed here. I did not want to learn English. I wanted to learn something else, as you said, and I started learning Japanese.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with.
No,
That could not be further from.
no, you know, only in Japan they speak Japanese.
Yeah.
So
Did they even have like colony? Did they ever? I don't know. Well, they did, but
They try.
they
Yeah.
tried a couple of times. They tried. It did not went well.
It didn't went so well for them, sadly.
But like there's German colonies in Brazil that are not related to certain other events. Like there are just like little pockets of German in other parts of the world. Like you would think there would be a Japanese somewhere, but
Yeah, you can say like, Mallorca, a German colony, or
yeah,
true.
Argentina could have been.
That's a different.
Yeah. But then you married a German woman.
So that like comedy, that's the thing is like I was here for 10 years doing as a journalist. That's what I was doing here
Yeah.
before I started comedy. And so I moved to Berlin and and then I met like after I'd lived here, I guess probably 6 or 7 months. Probably 9 months. And then I ran into her just at a party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't difficult because it was an awful party.
Yeah.
I hope she's not listening. Basically, she and I were the only good-looking people at the party. I mean, now I'm an old man, but back then, it was kind of like it was like in my brain, it was like a black and white party. It was like there was no color, and then she walked in color, like she just came.
Oh.
But then I talked to her.
Then was love at first
Love at first, kind of, sort of, except we talked for like 3 hours or 4. Like we did not move. We stood in this one place talking for like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden she says, my boyfriend's going to be here in a minute.
Whoa, man. Okay.
Never been so close to murder in my life. And the whole time, because she had this friend of hers who's nice, and I was like, oh, she's trying to get me, like the cute girl's trying to hook me up with her friend.
Oh.
And then when she said that with her, I'm like, oh, man. And then it was too late to go out. It was like 2 a.m. I'm like, I can't go out now. That's weird. But then we ran into each other in a bar a couple days later, or a couple weeks later.
And I broke with my with my boyfriend.
Well, the thing she says now, she's like, I was trying to figure out how to say, like, she was like, I should have said we just left. We could have left. I didn't have to see him.
Yeah.
They were breaking up, basically.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know how to, like, she was nervous too.
Yeah. But those moments when you meet, exactly, like at a party and you may click with someone and then the conversation just continues and continues and continues.
Right.
And then it's just like that perfect moment when you just find that click with that person, right?
Yeah.
And she was from Germany then.
Yeah, she's German. Yeah, she'd moved here, I don't know, like 95. And it just worked. And then, like, you're at a certain age, I had a decent career. She had an okay career. So, like, 6 months later, we were pregnant. And
it was fast.
Yeah, it was kind of quick.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you guys decided that you wanted to raise a family here, or you ever thought to, okay, maybe we do it in the US?
It had always been in the air. Like, we'd always talked about it. And we like, every time we visited my parents, we would visit another city to see if we could live there. Like, I don't know, tons of places, Raleigh, North Carolina, out of Chicago. Okay. We visited lots of places. But when you do the math, back then they were little kids. In Germany, you basically get free daycare, Kita.
Yeah.
Till they're so it's like you're not going to be able to. And then like, you get 6 weeks of vacation here. In America, you get maybe 2.
Yeah.
Like, it just was like, it didn't work. So we're like, all right, we'll stay. We did actually move to the States from 2015 to 2017.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it just fit. Like the kids had finished basically elementary school, middle school.
So they could do high school there.
Yeah. So it was like a perfect fit. So I was working for this website, thestreet.com, and I just said, hey, could I work from Portland? They said, we don't care where you work from.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved.
Like you mentioned, like 6 weeks of vacation.
Yeah.
But here now we have like months of.
No, you
like
mean
30
parental
days.
leave?
Yeah, parental leave.
Oh, parental, that didn't exist back then, actually.
Ah, okay.
really?
And also the Kindergeld
Yeah, plus Kindergeld.
also didn't.
No, we got Kindergeld. Yeah, that's the thing. You got Kindergeld, you get basically free Kita. Okay. Back then, it's hard to imagine. Now we got money to buy an apartment. They just gave us money to buy an apartment. They gave us tax deductions for renovating the apartment because people forget. I mean, like East Germany was a mess. Like these buildings had not been renovated since they were built at the turn of the century. So they gave you tax incentives to renovate the building.
Okay.
So I got, $3,000 a year to buy the apartment for 10 years or something.
Oh, really?
Or 5 years. I don't want to say too much. It was like, it was crazy money. It was just free money.
Wow. Okay. Hard
Plus
to
a tax
say no.
write-off. Yeah. I did the math one year and I figured out that like in the end I was what I was paying in income tax, I was getting back in other benefits.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's hard to leave, and so we didn't. We just stayed here.
Yeah, actually, you also, and I think you mentioned it also that the Kindergeld existed already since a very long while in Germany, even in the Nazi Germany.
I think it was even before. Well, no, maybe that was the thing.
before.
I did research it for that thing. I think maybe it started in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, what I didn't know, it's a lot of countries in Europe have it.
Yeah,
Lots of-
like
I didn't know that.
Sweden,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure that Denmark and all of the Scandinavians.
I think-
they already-
yeah.
I think even the UK has it, which you would not expect.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure about that one, but
Yeah.
really.
I don't know. There were a couple countries where I'm like, wow, I didn't know they have it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's still, even now, I still get it. My kids are in college. I still get it. It's funny. There's just like, I don't know, the government would never just give you cash in America. They would never just send you 500 euros every month, you know?
There is always this comparison about how expensive it is to have a kid in United States and here in Germany.
Yeah.
Like you have to pay the hospital, that is super expensive. You have to pay daycare. Yeah,
Super expensive.
super expensive.
Yeah, like
also.
basically one partner works just for daycare. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. No, and for us, I mean, we come from Mexico. The first time I heard that it was like an unemployment benefit, I thought like, what? Because a friend of us, she was working here, and then she got fired, and I said, "Oh my God, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Are you gonna pay your rent?"
Yeah.
I have the unemployment money. Like the what? Yeah,
What
like I
money,
get
what?
60% of my salary. Like, whoa, what? So you're fired and you get money? What is this?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, and then I thought, okay, yeah, they got it pretty good in here.
No, that was the thing. When I moved to Berlin, I was working for the Financial Times, and we had we had basically salaries like people in London.
Mhm.
Back then,
Mhm.
Berlin cost nothing. I mean, Berlin was
Yeah.
like, and so we had these crazy London salaries. We even got a cost of living increase once. It was like 30% increase just because they're like, we give it to everybody in London, we have to give it to you guys.
Wow.
But then I got laid off.
Ooh.
But still, my 60% unemployment was more than my wife was making, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember how cheap was Berlin, and when you want to buy an apartment actually today, and the apartment is rented out, and you will see the details how much the current tenant is paying, and then you see sometimes for 100 square meters, and they're paying 400 euros, and like what?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, even yeah,
Yeah,
like even
like-
less sometimes. I was renting an apartment, the room of one apartment, and I'm sure that I was paying the whole apartment,
Yeah, probably.
probably, because
Yeah.
the contract was like super old.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still raise the rent. They could raise the rent if they want to.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have
at
these
least they
old
didn't do
contracts.
that. Yeah, it's true. At least they didn't do that because they could have charged like double.
I mean, you would take it gradually, but you can raise rent. I don't know.
I think there's some old contracts where they cannot or something
I
like
know
that.
people say that. It's like, I don't know. I actually meant to write a blog about this because
Oh,
people
yeah?
say that
Uh-huh.
we just got an old contract. But like, from what I know about Berlin, because we had to rent out our apartment while we moved to the States, like, you could just raise the rent. Like, there's nobody that says the contract. I don't know if the contract says, okay, for in perpetuity, this is the rent. Maybe. That would be
Yeah.
insane.
I think after 10 years, it cannot raise more.
I don't know. That's a,
This is a mystery. What
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
contracts
yeah.
were
Most people
those?
say that we've got
Why
old
we don't have those anymore? Yeah, and then you've had some sort of like how do you call that in English? Like reverse cultural shock when you move back to the US in 2015.
yeah. Somewhat. I mean, part of it was we also moved to Portland, Oregon, where I had lived before, and they're their own special people.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely. Like but it's just like going back to visit, I get reverse cultural shock that like,
like everyone is so nice.
yeah, yeah. But that's like a warm blanket, you know. It's like, but at the same time, then like my friends will be like, "Bro, you just knocked into that guy walking. You didn't say excuse me." You know, like I'm kind of like,
yeah.
like I'm just kind of because. That's nice in Germany. You can bump into somebody and it's not going to turn into a felony, you know? Like, there's nobody's going to get murdered. You just bump into somebody and keep going.
Yeah,
You
good.
can leave a party without telling anyone, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be completely fine.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. They very bit racist way they call it, but they call it like the Polish. How's it
A
called?
Polish
Afghan.
goodbye.
Yeah.
But actually, apparently every culture has that. In America, apparently we call it an Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in Mexico, we don't have it. We
Oh, you
you
don't
have
have
to
that?
go to every one
Yeah,
of
it's
them
so
to
annoying.
say
Yeah.
goodbye.
You don't have the Ecuadorian goodbye.
Yeah, those like you have to spend like 30 minutes saying goodbye to everyone. I think the Spaniards have also the same thing. And I think also the Italians, like maybe something about Southern cultures. Yeah, that they have to spend so much time saying goodbye. And when I saw that here, I was like quite impressed that at a company party, like suddenly people was starting to disappear. And then at the end, we were just like 6 people. And like, where is everyone else? Why nobody said goodbye? This was, that's a Polish Afghan.
Polish Afghan.
Yeah, nice. I'll start using that.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing in South America. That like
you say
Central
I have
America.
to go. I gotta go, and say no. Why? No, stay.
Every 30 minutes you have to say, I'm leaving now.
Now I have to go. No. One more. And it's like really annoying.
I'm exhausted already.
Yeah. And then I said, I'm starting to do that.
I mean, no, I remember at work, it was the worst. Not the worst, but you have to go and say hi to everyone, to the place where they were sitting. And then when you were leaving, you have to say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, but they used to do that in Germany.
Yeah. Really?
That was like a thing, that you had, I think East Germany actually, that you had to come in, you had to shake everybody's hand, like in your department. I don't know about leaving, but I know in the morning you had to come in and shake everybody's hand. I mean,
but the most funny thing is when you go into the cafeteria of the company and everyone is eating and you have to say Mahlzeit.
Yeah.
I have to answer you Mahlzeit.
There's these weird things of like Germans don't talk to each other, but sometimes they do. And when they do, but it's because it's anonymous, right? Like you're saying Mahlzeit to 20 people.
Yeah.
Or like when you walk into a doctor's office, you greet everybody because it's anonymous.
Talk.
Yeah, go talk.
Yeah. But the Mahlzeit is like very funny, like Mahlzeit. And you just automatically have to answer that without even looking to the person. Mahlzeit. And
Yeah, but I do it ironically. I do it like, I just say it because it's funny.
Yeah. And and I wanted to know, I mean, I'm also a father.
Sorry.
Yeah. You already have been through this, but how do you raise bilingual children? Because I think they're fully bilingual right now, right?
They're totally bilingual. I mean, they and their friends all say their German is worse than their English. They went to a bilingual school.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think I'm not a scientist. I'm not a linguist, but I think the key was just speaking. My wife spoke German with them. I spoke English with them. Mm-hmm. And their whole childhood, because they would say like, they would talk to their mom, and they'd turn around and talk to me, and they would say the same thing they say to their mom in German, they say to me in German, and I would say, I don't understand you. How does Dad say that? And I kept waiting for them to go, hey, Dad, I just heard you speaking German to Mom. But in their heads, I didn't speak. And even now, they're 19 and 20. It is weird to speak German with them. It's like super awkward. So we just did it. And it was, back then, nobody spoke German in Berlin. I mean, nobody spoke English. Sorry, nobody spoke English. Okay. Nobody spoke English. So I felt really like a total angebe, like a total poser. Like, oh, I speak English.
Yeah.
It was awkward, but I just did it. I thought it was important that they become bilingual.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, is your partner what?
She's German.
Yeah.
And we're trying to teach them Spanish, but it's not going very well.
He's failing. He's talking to him.
I'm failing.
German.
I think you got to do one just consequent as a German. So you got to really do it. And they won't get it at first. Like our kids didn't get it. They're like, why should I learn to speak English? You could tell they didn't get it. But then we went to America and visited family. And then, the family's like getting out presents and like, oh, you're the grandkids. And then suddenly they're like, oh, wow. Okay. This is why we speak English.
To get presents.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. That's what I felt like. They were like, oh, if we want something from great-grandma, then we're going to have to speak English. Bilingual people have this a lot. Like a lot of things, and even in my brain, they're separate. Like baby clothes, baby equipment is for me all in German.
Okay.
I had no idea. It's called a onesie, I think. They're called a body in German, like those little one things that babies have.
Yeah.
Like for years, I did not know what that was called in English. I didn't know. So I think your brain compartmentalizes stuff in languages. And for my kids, they might have even like realized that I was speaking German, but in their brains, I just spoke English.
Okay. Yeah.
And even one time we were in Colorado in the mountains, and we were in this hot springs, and this like super cowboy dude comes, like a hardcore cowboy, like a real cowboy.
On a horse.
Basically, like I wouldn't be surprised if he parked his cowboy out front.
Okay.
And so then I switched to German to say to my kid, like, "Wow, check out the cowboy," And you've seen something like that. And he goes, "Dad, why are you talking to me in German?" Like the cowboy was like, "Oh, you're talking about me." And I was like,
Yeah. Sometimes it's good.
It should
language.
be very interesting, like to have a conversation with your kid that nobody else understands.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, like in America, we can't. Well, you don't.
Secret code.
You think, you hope, you know.
Okay.
I think in America, it's a pretty good. There's nobody's going to understand you.
But here in Germany, everyone can understand you.
Well, they had like there's kind of a bullying culture in German culture, like older people love to tell kids they're doing something wrong. Like they love to, you know. I mean, Germans love to tell people they're doing something wrong. Yeah, and kids even more because they have the power advantage, you know.
Yeah.
And often on the subway, my daughter speaks way too loud. It annoys me, but I had to like, whatever, I let her do it. She's a kid. She can do whatever she wants. And she talks too loud. And so they would annoy people in the subway and they would be speaking English. So the people next to them would start complaining to each other in German about the kids. And then the kids would then switch and say, hey, wir verstehen euch. No?
In your face.
Yeah, totally. And then, I mean, they were born and raised here, so they're Berliners too, you know.
They have the Berliner Schnauze.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I mean, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And also, I think there might be also words that if you're bilingual that you just automatically translate in the wrong way. And I heard that also from some people that actually in the US, I have heard in Florida, that they do a new dialect. Because you say normally, okay, if you're going to throw a party, you say we're throwing a party. But in some places there, you're starting to say we're going to make a party.
Yeah. It drives my kids do that. Plus, it's two things. They do that. They just do Denglish.
Yeah.
I mean, they do extreme. Like, it drives me insane. They just, whatever word occurs to them, that's what they use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, we speak only, but they just throw these things out and it drives me crazy. And then,
for example,
and then, so they do that. But then they also, because they went to this bilingual school here, they also learn Britishism. Like, they don't take a test, they write a test.
Yeah.
Painful for me to hear, like, writing a test.
Okay.
Yeah, on the weekends, like
these different words like cab and taxi.
Yeah, that stuff, lift.
Yeah.
Or sleep
fries,
over,
chips.
And you can say übernachten. You might be
overnighting. My kids are always overnighting. They don't sleep over. They overnight. Yeah. That was a huge thing. They're not stuffed animals. They're what do they call them?
Kuscheltier, like
they're cuddle toys. They're cuddle toys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things are and they like I would try to correct them, and that was when they were getting older, and they were like, "Well, I'm not no, because Dad wants us to do it right. We're not going to do it right." So they're cuddle toys.
I hear one of your jokes about small coins.
Small coins.
Yeah.
And I think my daughter does that intentionally. Yeah, like the cuddle toys is the exact same fight we had about the small coins.
Okay,
that was weird because that one was weird. The small coins thing was weird because she just said that, "Hey, I want to go get something to eat. Do you have any small coins?" And I was like, small coins. I was like, what do you, small money?
Small money. Yeah, small money.
And I really it took me a minute. I was like, small money. I was like, oh, so Kleingeld. Because
yeah.
And then I said, no, it's called change. And she said, no, Dad, it's small money. And it was like,
okay, you're right.
I think, and those things that's like solid in her brain now. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
And cuddle toys was like that, overnighting.
Yeah. And when you, for example, go to the US, in terms of like raising children, is there something that in the US like is unthinkable but in Berlin is very normal?
You know, I was super shocked in Portland. Like, we have super left-wing friends in Portland, like super open, and their kids were not allowed to walk on the streets like after 9 p.m. After dark, they weren't allowed to walk on the streets. I believe it's suburban nowhere. Like, nothing's going to happen. They weren't allowed to walk like a block and a half.
Right.
And my kids come home at 3 or 4 in the morning here, you know, from the other side of Berlin.
Yeah.
So that would be totally unthinkable. Even still, our left-wing friends would be like, oh, if your boyfriend or your girlfriend is here, you got to leave the door open to the room.
Yeah. Or they sleep over.
That's true.
When there's an overnighting.
Yeah.
Overnighting. Yeah, for example, here is like very normal, right?
Yeah, if you're like 15, 16, well, probably I'd say, I don't know, 15, probably 16, your boyfriend, girlfriend comes, whatever.
Yeah.
It's your business, man.
Yeah. And in the US, it's like...
No way.
Yeah.
Trust children?
Yeah. No, but in Mexico it's the same. In Mexico it's the same.
In Mexico it's the same.
But
yeah,
they
asked the mothers, they ask us to leave the door open.
Yeah. Same thing.
And then they come every 10 minutes to check.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, and at 10 p.m. they will already ask, and when is he leaving? Doesn't he has a home where he needs to go? Or
in Germany, they're just like, does he have a toothbrush? Does he need a toothbrush?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Or they already have it there in the bathroom, so it's quite normal there.
Even going on trips, like, for me, that was weird. Like, every year, your class in Germany, even in elementary school, goes away for like a week.
Yeah.
Like, everybody travels for a week.
Well, I see the big gangs of Italian kids like in summer most of the
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's especially like as comedy, because sometimes these kids have nothing to, well, the German classes, so they come to comedy and they're like 16. What what relatable jokes am I going to tell to a 16-year-old?
Yeah, but I always find that very cool about Europe, because they do these cool trips and they go to Paris and like,
very cool places.
Yeah. We were going just to the zoo or something like that, like very boring stuff. Yeah, but they managed to do that. And in your experience, have you ever had an experience with the German police here?
Yeah.
How was it? And how is it like in contrast with the US? Because we hear a lot of stories about the police, the cops in the US are like this and that, and you are always very afraid. How was it?
Yeah, no, I'm afraid of the cops in the US, no problem. And my brother was a police officer. I want nothing to do with the American police. You just want nothing to do with those guys.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I don't know, I love watching police videos. The level of violence in American police.
That's also something that I can understand. I'm terrified, but at the same time I'm curious about watching that.
Yeah, right.
What's wrong with me?
Half the time, you're like, okay, this guy kind of like. Well, he didn't earn the treatment he ultimately got, but he's in that situation because of himself.
Yes,
a lot of times. But the cops aren't making it any better. And in Germany, I feel like in Berlin, the thing is they're just lazy. You know, like if you're going to give them a reason not to do their job, then they're not going to do their job, which is to your advantage as a criminal. You know.
Yeah.
The few times. Like Berlin is changing, but back in the day, like one time, two dogs got in a fight in the park, and it was pretty brutal.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we called the cops, and they were like, "Yeah, dogs aren't a problem." Like every time actually one time I saw a fight at Alexanderplatz, and it was a dude beating the crap out of a woman and another guy.
Really?
Yeah. So I called the cops, and he goes, "Well." I was watching the fight, and I was like, "Okay, now they broke up. They're walking away." He goes, "Well, if the fight's over, then it's up to them to call the police. I can't help you." Yeah, I'm like, they're here. You could come get witness statements. You know, like you don't want to do anything about it. No, it's not our problem. And I had that like several times. And then the dogs get in this fight in the park. You're like, it's pretty brutal. Not our problem. Dogs are not our problem.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's all this like just not wanting to have to deal with. Like that was my interaction with the cops.
Yeah. Interesting. I once had a situation where I had to call the cops, and it was a couple. They were fighting in the street, and it looked like very violent. And then I was with a friend having a coffee and say, "Oh, what the fuck? What is going on there?" And he said, "Let's call the cops." And then I called the police, and also the woman was telling me, "Yeah, but is he hitting her? No, but almost. It looks like it might become that." And they were like, "Yeah, but we cannot send anyone if there's no real violence." Like,
yeah,
but what about preventing violence?
Yeah. Now, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, "Yeah, no, he hit her. You just hit her." And then when they come, you go like, "Well, it looked like it from my angle. I don't know. I can't be sure." You know, like because it's like first you have to have this discussion about whether they should actually be involved or not. It's nuts, isn't it? It's just crazy.
Yeah. Okay, we're going there just to check. That's enough.
I've said for years, like I'm glad to live in a place that is so stable and basically safe that we don't really need, like we can have incompetent police. You know, they don't have much to do.
But it's funny. I remember that. In one of the apartments that I was living, the couple that it was in the next door, they were always fighting. You can hear them from the whole building could hear them. And I remember that once they were fighting, and at least 8 police men came.
Really?
Yeah. So I count 3 police cars. So quite.
Sometimes they take it seriously.
Yeah, sometimes they take it seriously.
Yeah. I guess there was one time that the cops mistook me for a homeless guy. That was.
That's just how I look.
Yeah. I mean, like a friend of mine the other day actually said that I grew a beard out in December. I like just let it grow out, and I can't really grow a beard. Like it just looks pathetic. And so she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you shaved your beard off." And I was like, "Yeah, I thought I was starting to look homeless." And she said, "Yeah, I didn't want to have to tell you, but during the lockdown, like one day I was just standing out in front of my apartment, and then I went back in, and all of a sudden, like 2 undercover cops were surrounding me, and like they were like, "Give us back the perfume you stole."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, "What? I don't have any." And they searched me and didn't find anything.
Oh.
And then he said, like, "Oh, I guess you're not the homeless guy we're looking for." No, I'm not.
I hear that in Japan, the police is so bored because it's like there's no crime or anything that they just pick random people like foreigners.
I've heard bad things about the Japanese police. I've heard bad things about the Japanese police. Yeah.
Well, you were stopped by that.
Yeah, I was.
So you were one of the foreigners.
Yeah, one of the foreigners that
so what
was
crime
stopped.
did you commit?
Nothing. Crossing the street.
Too fast or
walking too fast.
That's a crime.
Apparently, I look suspicious, and then I look behind me, and there were two people. Like suddenly, they just say, "Hey, you," or something like that in Japanese, and then police car just came, and then they stopped the way. Like I have three police Japanese guys asking me about if I had drugs, where I come from, everything. And with my poorly Japanese, it took me half an hour to explain that I had no drugs or anything.
How do you say that in Japanese?
Arimasen.
I have no drugs.
No, like they say marijuana. Arimasen.
Okay.
Arimasen. Okay. And then arimasen. How do you say no?
Inai or not nai.
Nai mariwasen. Do you think that living in Berlin can make your brain shrink?
Yeah, man, I worry about that. I honestly worry about that. Because back when I was a journalist, so I moved to Berlin. I was still working for okay places, But then I had friends who were like working in New York or London, and they would come visit us, and we'd go to some crappy little bar. We'd always go to Berg.Drew. It was this little place, and then they would sit there and be like, so Tuesday night I went to this cocktail party sponsored by this huge investment fund. Then Wednesday I interviewed the head of the IMF. Then Thursday, and they were just like, there was this power coming off of them, and they were doing all these things, and I was just sitting there going like, well, I got up at 11.
I had a coffee.
I haven't taken a shower in 2 days. These guys are like, and so yeah, sometimes I think like, wow, what would have happened if because it was like easy to just not do much, man. I had these great salaries. We had a great apartment. You go out all the time. All this crazy stuff was happening. And so yeah, maybe I could have had a real career, Instead of I've been to some great illegal parties in old factories that are now apartments.
Yeah. That's crazy how much has disappeared. So you really, back on the days, you really did the Berlin life.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was like, somebody would show me like, hey, I found this Tuesday bar. They were called like a Tuesday bar. Or that just meant that was the night of the week it was open. Okay. And there was so much empty room. Like it's hard to imagine now. Like you would walk down the street and 3/4 of the businesses were empty. So if you could find out who owned the building or who had the keys, then you could say, hey, can I open a bar here on Tuesdays? And they were like, yeah, sure. And the government didn't care.
Wow.
All of the clubs, all the nightclubs, all the discos, as Germans call them, they were clubs. Like they weren't official bars. They were just like these, they would say, hey, like you have to have a membership. So you have to sign a little piece of paper or get it. So the beer would be cheap. They didn't have to pay tax on it. It was just a club.
Okay.
There was lots of these things.
Wow.
Yeah. And you were always kind of like, this feels illegal. This does not feel.
But still, some things here in Berlin seems illegal.
Yeah.
A lot of things. Some bars where you say, where's this? Is this like Brandschutz compliant? It's like if some fire comes out here, like everyone will be dead.
Yeah. We went to a party once in a basement, and they had those huge gas heaters.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a basement, and they've got these huge heaters going, and there's one exit, and it was a crappy little ladder.
Oh, that thing explodes, and then
that's right. And I just stood there, and then like after a while, this dude like came in and fell through the hole coming in on my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and we were like, we're out of here, man. Like this.
Yeah. I also was once here in a bar. I think it was Süßwassergestern in Friedrichshain before they had a basement area, and I went there, and I really thought that because you go through this very hidden ladder down to the basement, and I thought, wow, if something goes wrong here, then we're all dead. And the air was pretty dense, but at the same time it was like so cool. Like, wow, this is so Berlin. Yeah.
Now Zeus is very old. That's how it was when I was here. Yeah, Zeus is like, and I think that guy that runs it's run that thing forever.
Yeah. Oh, nice. And you can play Mario Kart.
No,
Mario Bros.
Mario Bros.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about that bar. Yeah, when people ask me, "Do you have a bar that you recommend?" I say, "Süßwassergestern."
Oh, nice.
You can go there. It's a bar, and after 10, it's a club. Go early because if you are just a bunch of guys, you are not gonna get in.
They have comedy a lot there, so I just did German comedy there last night.
Are you?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. I didn't know that.
I did not know also that
they
do comedy.
How is it now that you left a corporate career? And now you do comedy and write the stuff that you that you feel like? Because I see that you have your newsletter. It's called 20%.
Yeah, 20% Berlin for the 20% of Berliners that don't have a German passport. Yeah,
20%.
It's like 23% or 24%.
Oh, we're getting more.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. That's a nice combination of humor and journalism, because my first love was kind of journalism. So, and through comedy, I found out like a lot of people who live here know nothing about what's going on in Berlin.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to do a newsletter that says, hey, listen, this is that's that building site. That's why they're building over there. Or this is why the U2 is not running. These are your politicians, just kind of give an insight. So that's nice. That brings in a little bit of money. And now I'm trying to do events through it. So I've been doing comedy nights once a month with that. So that's nice. I mean, losing your corporate gig is terrifying.
Yeah.
And you were talking before about the $1,800 Canada Goose jackets.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have a New York salary or a London salary. I would walk in the store and be like, oh, yeah, sure. I'll take a jacket, you know? And now I walk into the store and go, well, maybe I can find this on Vinted used. You know? Yeah. It's terrifying, but it's way better, man. I can't work in an office.
Yeah.
I'm incapable.
Yeah. It's hard at the beginning when you're not working at an office, and then you see. Well, now that home office became very normal, but before that, for me, it was very hard to see how a Monday looked at midday. It was like I cannot imagine how it looked. Maybe amazing things happen at that time of the day, and I'm here locked in an office.
Yeah.
When did you realize that you cannot work anymore in an office?
Oh, actually, I worked, it was during the pandemic. I mean, I've been thinking that for several years. I worked, originally when I was the correspondent in Germany, I worked a home office from the beginning. And then I had some other jobs. I worked at Handelsblatt, which is a big German financial paper. Then my last job in an office was at Berliner Zeitung. And I just hated it. I thought everybody in this office is an asshole. Every one of you is an asshole. And then I started thinking, I'm like, dude, you've thought that in every office you worked at. Like every time you've worked in an office, you thought that. And I thought, maybe if you think everybody in the office is an asshole for 20 years long, maybe it's not them. That's, you know? And that was when I started thinking, like, man, you just can't work in an office. Then maybe you should focus more on the things you love, like comedy. And then this newsletter kind of came out of that. And
you got a lot of subscribers now on that newsletter?
Yeah, we're like brushing up against 10,000.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, but in my mind, it should be like 5 times that, you know?
Yeah, because it's true what you say. A lot of people, they live here, but it's really hard to know what is going on. You have some websites like Ex-Berliner and local.De, but there's a lot of stuff going on to really catch what is, if you don't know German especially.
Well, yeah, and even if you start learning German, you read the paper, there's so many contextual things in there, you have no idea what you're reading. But I've been covering Germany and Berlin for 20 years, so like I know immediately, like, this is, I mean, like today I wrote it, and there's one thing where I'm like, it's interesting to me, and then I thought, okay, if it's interesting to me, then it might be interesting to everybody else, so I wrote about it. And then some of that stuff leads to comedy. I'm working on a new special, I don't know what you call it, a new piece, a 1-hour history of Berlin in 60 minutes. It's about the history of Berlin.
Okay.
Yeah, trying to be funny about it, and then like weaving in my Berlin story into it
in written form or in comedy.
The dream is everything, you know, like do a show, then have a book.
Okay, nice. And you're touring a lot. You were telling me you're going to be in Brandenburg. You're going to be in.
Yeah, I don't know if it's tour. Like, it's not like you can't look at a poster and be like, I should do solos. It's just like I get booked to do little shows. So so like this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I'm in Vienna. Next week, I'm in Münster, which is over on the border of Holland. Then I'm in Magdeburg, then Leipzig. So yeah, I'm doing lots of little shows.
But it's crazy how you're not in the English scene, you're in the German scene.
I do German, I do English too, but like those shows are all German shows.
Yeah, because I have seen when I arrived in Berlin, there was not the comedy scene was like, there were very few shows in the city. Like, it was like Cosmic Comedy and another couple of others. And now I'm subscribed to the newsletter. And it's like 3 shows every day, even on Mondays and even on Tuesdays. Like,
yeah, it's funny. Back then, once a month. You could perform English once a month. Like, yeah. It was crazy. Comedy and Sin, and then it became, or Fishbowl. It started as Fishbowl, then became Cosmic. There were little shows here, and there was nothing. And now, it's like every night. And funnily, actually, the German scene is now huge in Berlin, and they modeled themselves on the English scene, because the English scene was bigger first.
Oh, really?
And then when the German scene started to emerge, they like took the how to organize it on Facebook, and like what kind of shows and what bars.
Yeah. Okay.
And the German scene totally modeled it. Now the German scene is much more professional than the English scene, but I mean, that's going to happen.
It's more, there's more people.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it is interesting that if you say that they copied a little bit or got inspired by how the
100%. It copied it 100%. Straight up, we're doing the same show you're doing in this bar. We're going to do it the next night, but in German. And we've got the same Facebook page. We're using the same tricks to get Facebook. It was the exact same thing.
I think in the city where you have a lot of months where are too gray, too cold, or too rainy, there's a big need of
something.
Laughing. Yeah, because also in the Spanish scene, I see a lot of more shows that like 5 years ago, and then it was like a lot of Spanish, and then we're such a small community in comparison, and still a lot of
we need it.
Yeah,
so we need it. I mean, look the weather outside.
Same thing happens every year. Like November, it starts to get cold. I'm like, oh, this is nice. I'm liking this cold. And then it gets really cold in the summer. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I love this. And then February shows up. I'm like, you mother. Like, I went for a walk today. I'm like, where is the sun? Where is the sun?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I never get used to this.
You guys, it must be awful for you.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah. Well, how is in Denver?
Denver actually has perfect weather because it's really high. They call it a mile high. So you have like super mild. The summers it gets kind of hot. You have like 90-degree day. I don't know. What do you get? Do you guys metric in Mexico?
Metric.
You get days that are like 30, 35,
In winter.
No, in the summer. And then in the winter, you have really nice snowfalls because what happens is it like comes over the mountains, Rocky Mountains, and then it gets stuck on numbers. So you get this crazy snowfall. But because it's so high, once the clouds are gone, then it's like 10 degrees,
But it's nice.
Yeah. So you had like this beautiful snowfall for a day.
Yeah. It's
crazy snowfall.
Beautiful.
And then it's 10 degrees and everything just kind of slowly melts. And then it's like 10 degrees for a while, 10, 15 degrees.
Okay. Not bad.
It's perfect. It's actually beautiful. And then the summer doesn't get too hot. It's dry. So it's a bearable heat.
Oh my God. Yeah, you hear so humid, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you feel like you are in the Caribbean or something like that,
totally.
But without the beach. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have a smelly armpit on the subway.
Yeah. And in Europe, they don't use so much.
The other
personal hygiene.
Hygiene, yeah.
It is crazy in the summer and you get on the subway and you're like, how can it smell this bad?
Yeah.
Like, don't they smell it?
Yeah, I think they just,
they're used to it.
I mean, I guess. It was a big shock for me at the beginning. I think now I'm more used to it. So eventually, if you're born here, maybe you just used to it. Yeah,
cultural.
It's funny. We like in English we call it body odor, right? And the Germans just say it smells like sweat, which I think like
it's a huge difference.
Yeah. Like that doesn't sound so offensive, right? Like it sounds like a kind of a soccer team. I don't know.
Yeah. It's sweat. Everyone's sweat, but the other one is the stank of the body, right?
Yeah. It's like they're like decomposing already.
Yeah. Nice. What other project do you have that you might want to share with
No, that's pretty much in my newsletter and comedy. That's enough, man. I think that's because my kids are at school now, so they're not a project anymore. Newsletter 20% Berlin, and then just to my website Berlin.com. I'll put the dates on there. You pointed out my seasonal depression in January.
I would like to see a show live.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
Yeah, sadly I cannot.
So in German, I do English too, though. I mean, I just did
if you do in English, of course I will go because I tried to watch the one some that I found in YouTube. That they're in German.
Yeah,
I tried to use the translation of YouTube. It was not working.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you influenced a little bit on your children? Do any of them want to become a comedian?
No, it's funny. My daughter is studying business.
Okay.
And a famous German comedian, I was performing with him, and he's like, I was like, I don't know why my daughter is studying business. And he was like, what, are you kidding me? She looked at your life and was like, that's not what I want.
Then it got an influence.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
You would think, but no, they're funny kids. They're super funny.
Well, that's a good thing if they have a funny dad.
Yeah.
You can catch a lot of the humor.
I can imagine that comedy is good to make business also.
I guess, probably. Yeah, I mean, presentation is what it is.
Yeah,
talking, public speaking. Yeah,
exactly.
Public speaking helps a lot, and also to get girls helps a lot to be.
You are funny. You get the girl.
Yeah, exactly. You're not that good looking, but at least you're funny. All right.
Story of my life. Well, wait, how many kids? You have one kid?
2 kids.
2? How old are they?
Quite small still. Almost 6 and 2.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
you guys waited a long time.
Yeah. You only waited 6 months, right?
We waited it was stupid. Because they say like if you're nursing still, you can't get pregnant. Like they say you can't get pregnant, and the next breath they go, actually you can.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, you're not going to get pregnant, but if you do, we don't care. We want another kid anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But then we're like, what? You're pregnant?
Yeah. How old were you when you got them?
32.
Okay. Same as me. I was 32. Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. But I thought I waited quite a long, and I was like, I think very cautious. And then the second one, let's wait a little bit. We're still dealing with the first one. And then it became too long. And then they have this big difference. But on the other hand, we say, but in a way, one is a bit more independent than the second one. So it balances it. Yeah. But we still have a long run to wait until we are finally go out and have dinner for two.
Yeah, diapers forever.
Yeah, also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't have any kids. So.
You're the smart one in the room. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, he's getting rich by not having kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Come on, you are getting money from the government.
True. You get a lot of subventions.
Almost 1 year of parental leave.
Isn't it weird getting that money every month, though? Isn't that strange? It just shows up in your account.
Yeah. It's weird.
But literally, they pay you to get.
But it's a big responsibility because I'm like, I should not touch that money. It's like a big temptation because I should not touch it. This is for free. I should put it somewhere wise.
Wow, look at you. I was like, it's Friday night, let's go.
ETF or funds or where should I put it? Where should I put it?
Well, you guys are a different generation.
So maybe just a specific case.
So you would do it?
Yeah. No, like, come on, it's free money. I need a new TV.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. Like,
so where did you put it? ETFs or what are you putting it in?
Yeah, and ETFs.
Yeah, right.
Let's see what happens.
At least it's not Bitcoins.
Yeah, or NFTs.
NFTs, that's even worse.
Even worse.
Are they even still around?
Huh?
Are they still around, NFTs?
I don't know.
Just in the bad news.
Yeah.
So you hear from time to time, these people lost so much money with us.
With NFTs, with stupid, how's it called? Bored monkeys.
Monkey, yeah.
Did we get through all your notes? I'm impressed. You wrote notes, man.
Huh?
You wrote notes. Did we get through your notes?
Yeah. I mean, some of them went quite natural. Some others, are very long notes. Yeah. I try to prepare a little bit.
Nice. Impressive.
And by hand, because if I do it in the computer, I think you learn more of what you want to say when you write it by hand. It's like you record it again in your brain. And when you do it in the computer or you use the help of ChatGPT, then it just doesn't really stick, because then you can cheat a lot with ChatGPT. I want to ask something about this and this. And then they it writes it, but it doesn't stick on your brain in the same way that if you write it again.
There's actually a German saying, like, from your hand to God's ear or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a saying about you writing. Every time you, like, if you're writing your notes, like comedians, we write our notes in our notebook about how the gig went or whatever, and then somebody will always walk by and like, oh, from Gottes Hand, I don't even know what it is, from Gottes Hand in deinem Ohr, or from dein Hand in Gottes Ohr, every time.
Interesting. Yeah. But that's my currently my technique. Also, when I'm reading, I try always to put a marker on, to have a marker in the book that I'm reading, because I have the feeling that, sometimes a book is full of a lot of words, but the interesting stuff, you can extract it if you really can mark it with something. So sometimes I try to read fast and say, this is interesting. I will mark it, and then I read that part again, and then it sticks on the brain. And then if I want to recap that in the future, I can just go through the yellow stuff on the book, because sometimes it's just like filling words, so you have 200 pages on a book.
You've got a future as a motivational speaker, I think.
If you want to learn.
You can have your book and you can write a book.
Exactly. Has been a very nice pleasure to have you with us in our second episode in English. It would be almost in the Spanish podcast. We're almost in the 100th episode.
Oh, some in early days here.
Yeah.
I'm living history. It's not just the East Germans living history. Now I'm living history.
Exactly. You're seeing just the beginning of the foundation of
this podcast.
What do you call it in English now?
Guten Tag.
Okay.
The podcast. So there's not another one Is this the
podcast?
Because there's another ones that call Guten Tag and whatever, Guten Tag, whatever, and this is Guten Tag, the podcast. There's not a second one. Yeah. So can you share once again where they can find you?
Yeah, 20%.Berlin. That's my newsletter. And Berlin.com. Find me. Yeah. And thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for for coming here. And yeah, we'll see you in one of your shows.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you again. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Tschüss.
Tschüssi.